Hey everyone, my name's Jason. I am a solo developer living in Sweden, making my own little game, my little dream game. We'll see how it goes, because I don't know how it's going to go. But in this video, what I want to talk a little bit about is Unity. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me for my take on this situation, and also ask me if I'm happy that, you know, as someone who's using Godot for their game, am I happy that I didn't choose Unity? And the TLDR is yes, I'm happy I didn't choose Unity, obviously, because I don't want to be working on an engine that's part of all the shit that's going on. But also, I think that there were reasons before to not want to go with Unity, not for the engine's sake, but for Unity management's sake. And I don't think it takes a lot of research to find that kind of stuff, right? So I wasn't really comfortable before. Now I'm super not comfortable going with them. So I'm quite happy with my decision to go with Godot. Now, one of these things, just in case if you're not aware of what's going on with Unity, the recent thing is the Unity Runtime Fee. As you can see here, they've introduced this thing. Unity has previously always been this engine that was like, you had to pay like a monthly fee. There was a free version as well, but there are like different tiers of monthly fees that you can pay for depending on how much money you make or what you sort of want. But then there's no like revenue share down the line. So whatever profits you get are yours. You just have to pay them the monthly fee as long as you're using the engine. But now they turn around and they said that they want to do this Unity Runtime Fee, which is every time a game gets installed, you have to pay something. And now it's not right away. There are some fee eligibility stuff. So you do need to make $200,000 if you're using Personal or Unity Plus, or $1 million in the past 12 months if you're using Pro or Enterprise. And then you also need to have 200,000 life-to-date installs. This is counting retroactively as well. So if you made a game years ago and you got 200,000 installs, then this eligibility condition is met, or 1 million for Unity Pro and Enterprise. And then the way this would happen is that as of January 1st, 2024, when this kicks off, they will then start charging you. If you are eligible, they'll start charging you from that date on for every install. Now, this brought up a whole bunch of questions of like, well, what's considered an install? You know, can people fraudulently do things? And the TLDR is, if we just take Unity's intended way of things working out as gospel, if we just go with that, fraudulent installs won't count somehow. Apparently they have ways to do that. Installs and reinstalls won't count. It just counts the one time per device though. So if I install it on one PC and then install on my laptop, that counts as 2 installs, because according to Unity, because they don't want to track your identity across different devices. It's for your privacy's sake that they're doing it this way. It's not because they want to charge you multiple times. Well, let's just take them at their word there. And even if that's the case, we immediately start running into issues with this kind of setup at all. For example, we can immediately just start looking at free-to-play games where the install to revenue ratio is different to your traditional $30 game where people install it one time, play it once, and then that's kind of it. And if you think about free-to-play games, way more people install versus how much revenue you get via like in-app purchases, right? So free-to-play games in this case, you know, and the fee here, you can see it's 20 cents per install here, or it's lower if you're using a higher monthly payment, basically. So if you're paying monthly, you pay less per install. But you can see here that this is not a scaling thing. It's not a percentage of your revenue or anything like that. It's just a flat 20 cents. So, you know, if a game, you know, is installed millions of times and then makes 200,000 in revenue, that gets installed another million times. What is that, 200,000 or something like that? Math off the top of my head. And then it can be that like this ends up becoming that every time the game is installed, like those developers actually literally lose money by having their game out there, because this doesn't really account for a percentage of the revenue. It's a flat rate. So this doesn't really work too well in certain cases. So there are all sorts of edge cases that don't really work too well with this. So a lot of people aren't happy with it. A lot of people are like, how can you do this and apply it to all games, even games that were, you know, released before? This is absurd. People who aren't even using the engine anymore might need to start paying them a fee. This is bananas, okay? People aren't happy with it. And people have their sort of like trust betrayed in this case as well, because they're like, how can you do this? If you're just willing to do this, what else are you willing to do, kind of thing. So basically, a lot of people aren't happy with this. And they've been getting a lot of flack online. I feel for the people at Unity that had nothing to do with this decision. But at the end of the day, I hope that the people who did make the decision really are taking into consideration what people are saying. And according to their, I feel sorry for the community manager that had to write this, but according to their Twitter or X, whatever you call it, they've said here, we have heard you. We apologize for the confusion and angst the runtime fee policy we announced on Tuesday caused. We are listening, talking to our team members, community, customers, and partners, and we'll be making changes to the policy. We will share an update in a couple of days. Thank you for your honest and critical feedback. And this is something that I sort of said on stream that, like, I wasn't super worried because there is no way the system can go forward as it is. It is fundamentally broken. It just actually just doesn't work at all. So I knew that there would have to be changes, but this tweet here is just kind of like, this could mean anything. This is maybe just buying time. Who knows what this really means or will amount to. So, you know, what do I think will happen here? I don't really know what will happen, but I know what I want to happen is that I really don't think that there can be a system that goes back in time, counts people's installs, and then starts charging developers who never signed up for this kind of fee to begin with. People who are either knee-deep, waist-deep, years deep into developing their current game, or people who've already released games before. I don't think those people should ever be charged a random fee after investing so much money into monthly fees with Unity, for starters, but then also just their time, their knowledge, the support that they've been showing for the platform at all. I really don't think that they should be doing it. I do envision that, like, if they want to have a runtime fee, assuming it works, assuming that, like, let's say all the edge cases are fixed, I think it's Unity's prerogative to have a runtime fee if that's what they want. But, like, I think it's then important that people then choose to opt in. They look at those terms and they go, yeah, that's okay, we'll take that. And then those people can then continue using Unity. I don't really know who's going to want to do that because I don't think it's a really great model for developers. It seems like a really unstable fee that you kind of have to pay. So I don't really see how people would like it. On top of the fact that Unity is pulling it this way, where they're just applying it to everyone randomly. This is a very jarring thing to do. And I think if I was a developer looking to get into Unity, I would feel a little unsafe and insecure. Like, if they're willing to do this, what else are they willing to do? You know, so I don't know who would choose to opt in, but I think that if they want to have this business model, they can have the business model. But I think it's important that there has to be some kind of grace period for people who are already in it to not have to take part if they don't want to, right? Maybe, like, say it kicks in 2025 or something like that, maybe even later 2026, because there are people who are in the middle of what they're doing now with their games, or saying that, like, it's only for, you know, games that are releasing after a certain amount of time, and everyone else, you know, who've released games before or are a certain, you know, depth into their development don't have to pay for it, because I don't think that's fair for those people. And if they do it that way, and then people are willingly choosing to go into this runtime fee payment system, then that's on them, right? People can make that choice and say, actually, I don't mind this deal, and we're going to go with Unity anyway. That's okay, but it's the rest of the people who don't have a choice. Like that, those are the people I feel bad for. So I hope that there's a change that allows space for those developers to finish their games and not have to deal with this runtime fee bullshit. Developers who have already released games to not have to deal with this runtime fee bullshit. I think that I hope that there's some change that carves out a space for them. But this sort of also begs the question, which is, why are they doing this? And I asked this on stream, and people immediately said, money, greed. Maybe, but that doesn't really, like, that doesn't connect the dots in my mind. Like, I can see, like, a weak argument for that, but I don't, it doesn't collect, it just creates more questions. The immediate question is, why did you, if you needed more money, why would you go about it this way, right? Like, there's so many ways. They could have just gone with revenue share. I know that Unity for the longest time has been like, there is no revenue share. This runtime fee is essentially a revenue share model. It's just a weird one. And kind of a bad one. I also saw that one of Godot's founders were trying to sort of, not necessarily back up Unity, but just provide some extra context here, which was this here, saying, you know, not defending the Unity leadership, but I think accusing them of greed when they're not profitable, I didn't know that, is missing the point. I also think that accusing them of greed does miss a little bit of the point. But what they're saying here, what Juan Linietsky is saying here, is that the problem is that it's just really expensive to develop the engine. And assuming that's true, and maybe they're just having money troubles and they just need to make revenue to make ends meet, because maybe running Unity is really, really expensive. That could be the case. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the company saying like, look, we actually just need more money because it's too expensive. And so we're going to add some other payment structure. I don't think there's, in order to recoup for that, to keep us, going. I actually don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, especially if you give the developers who are in your ecosystem some choices around the change that you're making. That's fine. And I think if Unity were to come out and say, look, we have to do a percentage revenue share, even that's maybe some people will take some issue with it, but I don't think that it would kill the goodwill as much as this runtime fee has. Because at least in those cases, a revenue share would be a percentage of what you make. So if you make little, they get little. In terms of tracking your revenue, this is a much more, I guess, reliable way, I imagine, than these random installs that Unity are going to be counting that you need to trust them for. I really feel like just go down the revenue share route. It's the same thing. It's asking for money from the developers. It's in a way that will be proportional to their earnings, and you can never turn their games into a liability in that case. I think, I'm not too sure, that maybe there's some edge cases in RevShare that could do that. And I don't think that would just tank the goodwill of the company either. So if it's greed, that doesn't make sense to me. If it's that things are expensive, they just needed more money, I really feel like they could have just gone revenue share and explained the situation to people, and people would have just been like way, way, way more okay with it than what this is. So like, it doesn't make sense to me that they're just trying to recoup costs either. like, And if they were doing that, I feel like they would have just said that. Like, I don't know, maybe there's something I'm missing here for a reason why they wouldn't say that. I mean, maybe people don't want to mention that they're not making money, but at this point where you're this far and this deep in the shit with the general public, like, I don't see why you wouldn't just come clean and say that. So I'm not really sure if that's the reason either. And so I'm still not sure why they've decided that this runtime fee, this obscure means of charging people, is a good idea. But then I did see in a video by Upper Echelon, this video here, and I think that maybe this is something that makes sense to me personally. This does actually more meaningfully connect the dots to me. I don't know if this is the truth of the case, but at least it justifies to me why we might go down this random runtime fee route, because the runtime fee really makes no sense to me if it was for greed or to cover increasing costs. It's like if I wanted to cook a sausage and I burn someone's house down and use the flames to like cook the sausage. It's like, sure, you can cook the sausage on the flames of someone's burning house, but you could have just done it many other ways without hurting anyone too, right? Like, it's just so obscure. There has to be some other reason why you would go to that extreme or take some obscure solution to this when there are like really, really obvious solutions still around, right? So I really feel like this probably touches on what it might be, and it's this article here. This is probably not the only article that's talked about it, but Unity is offering a runtime fee waiver if you switch to level play as it tries to kill AppLovin. And AppLovin is, I think, a service that helps or facilitates like ads for free-to-play games. I think that's the case, and I think that's what Unity has here with level play as well. So as you can see here that they've got like from one of the developers, they just want to kill AppLovin, but still it sort of does make sense, right? It does sort of make sense, and that we can see here that there are fee reductions for use of Unity services. So qualifying customers may be eligible for credits towards Unity runtime fee based on the adoption of Unity services beyond the editor, such as Unity Gaming Services or Unity Level Play Mediation for mobile ad-supported games. Now, this starts to make sense because I think according to this here, that if they switched from the main rival AppLovin to any other UA platform, user acquisition platform, they can unlock a runtime fee waiver of 80 to 100%. Now, this starts to make far, far, far more sense. If they just wanted to kill off the competition, that would bring in a lot of revenue in that capacity because they've got more people using their services instead, and then they get money, I guess, from advertising agencies or something like that, or I'm not sure how that would work out. But this does start to make sense because they have handcrafted a model that, quite frankly, is kind of random for your average developer, but it specifically targets free-to-play, like in-app purchase games that, uses other services kind of like AppLovin. This seems far more specifically targeted to that. And so if I think about it that way, it makes more sense. So I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know if that was the intention. This might be some, conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat kind of shit, but like at least this sort of explanation starts to connect dots. Now, again, while I recognize that it connects those dots in my brain, I also recognize that I don't know. So at the end of the day, I don't really know. And I'm going to keep my mind open. I'm going to listen to what else is being said and what other information that comes out. In any case, I really feel for the developers over at Unity who had nothing to do with this. I really feel for Unity developers, people who use the engine. And I hope that wherever this goes, I'm curious what they're going to say, where Unity are going to land. I anticipate that they're not going to kill off the runtime fee altogether, because I feel like a lot of work has probably gone into it, and I feel like Unity would lose a lot of face if they got rid of it at this point and said, all right, we're not going to do it at all, because first of all, they've already lost about as much trust as you could imagine from their user base, and then they're not going to get the thing that they lost, that they traded the trust for anyway, right? So I don't see them getting rid of the runtime fee, but they may make some changes to it, and I hope that the changes that they make end up in a place where the developers who are going to get affected by this aren't screwed and have an opportunity to get out if they want to, whether that's in a year or two or whatever. If at least they can wrap up what they're doing. They're not going to lose all their money from selling their game, and then they can move away from Unity if that's what they want to do. Or maybe they just landed a more reasonable runtime fee into implementation that's actually okay to stay with Unity on. You then would need to trust the company to not screw you in the future. Personally, I'm scared of that company now, and I wouldn't go there. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I don't really make videos talking about this kind of stuff. I'm gonna let it play out now. I don't really anticipate making any more videos on this, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit because a lot of people have asked me questions about it. So I just wanted to put this out there, and then maybe I can redirect them to this video. If you like the video, do consider leaving a like. If I got anything wrong, or if you have any other information to share, feel free to put it in the comments below. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Take care. Have a good week, everyone. Bye.